Recording
Okay.
in progress. Okay. So
Hello.
where is
Are
All
we
right.
just want to say hi?
Hello, how are you? Thanks for setting this up. Much appreciated.
Um,
hello?
Hi, Taj. I'm Gomi. I work with Doug.
Oh, good. Good for you. Go me.
Yes.
All right. Where's Gomi from?
I'm based in Nashville. Just like Doug.
Okay. So use a nice one.
All right. I'm just gonna be in the back and I'll let you guys chat away.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to get on here. Okay. Host has started.
Trying to
Okay.
see his beautiful face. There he is.
You
All
got
right.
me on?
Yeah, I see you. Looking good. Looking good.
All right. Well,
Let's do this thing.
yeah. Do the
Okay.
thing. I don't see me, but I guess you see me. So that's all that really counts right now.
Can you for the radio audience tell us who you are, where you are right now, and what it means to you to make music for over 7 decades?
Audience, this is Taj Mahal, and I am in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And it has been, the privilege of being able to please my ancestors to play music. I was a gift to me from, you know, from the creator or from creation through my ancestors. And I just wanted to share what I feel about music with the world.
Well, for those of us who've been listening to you pretty much since birth, like me, my dad and I grew up in Chicago. He was playing your 1968 self-titled on vinyl, probably from when I was in short pants. And I've rediscovered a lot of this music through your newest release, this album that's coming out, a live record. Uh, really, really impressed by sort of the energy in that room in Tulsa that you were able to create. Um, and do you feel like when you bring back songs that you've been playing your whole life, that there's sort of it's like you're rediscovering lost treasure in a way?
Um, no, not necessarily, because the tradition, the tradition is bigger than the music industry here, which started basically about as a how do I want to put it? As a financial music industry of just
Right.
over 100 years ago, and but the information and music and creative side of it had been brewing since Africans were brought into the Western world and brought with them some of the instruments that you know we have and continue to have and continue to be in continuum with the 11th century empire, Songhai Empire of Sundiata Keita, which covered
Mm.
Mauritania, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, Conakry, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And many of the people that were brought to the West, the so-called New World, were from these areas and brought with them many different things, which, for the most part, people don't really know about. But the tradition is still going on. That's why I'm on the road presently with Sona Jabarte, who is the first woman to come into the tradition since the 11th century. There have been others, but she's the first one that is fully carrying the tradition. And so, yeah, I mean, it's for me. It was as a youngster in the 40s. I started. My parents gave me a very good, a foundation, and self-awareness and confidence that I had a culture that was beyond just what's here in America. So
Right.
I went looking for the connections between that, and the finger picking style of guitar is one of the and the banjo and certain kinds of things that are put together are remnants of what people remembered here, and but still that tradition is going on strong today and being passed. And so I've been able to show people the gloriousness of this music and the fact that it is for everybody. And but here's where it comes from, and that's all. I'm not looking for anything else. I'm just wanted to get it out there and get it in the mix. And if it inspires people, good,
Well, when people think about Taj Mahal, often your music is sort of reduced to like, well, he's a blues man, right? This is what,
Mhm.
people assume that, well, you're going to be playing stuff like Statesboro Blues, which is honestly one of my favorite songs of all time. The Allman Brothers took it maybe into the next level. But you are one of the first people to expand that genre into world music. And you studied ethnomusicology at college in Massachusetts,
No,
right?
I didn't. That's now we can dispel that. No,
Great. Dispel the
I
internet.
yeah, let's dispel this. I majored in animal husbandry and minored in veterinary science and agronomy
Right.
and dairy technology. I did not study
My
ethnomusicology.
apology.
No, that's okay. It's a common it that I mean I at one point in time I probably would bristle by it, but as time has gotten on, I said, hey, listen, there's lots of stuff out here that people don't know
Yeah.
or have been misinformed with. So and so have I, been misinformed with. So this is a common occurrence. But I personally, my own personal study, I guess you could
Right.
call it musicology, but I mean, no, I made no formal, you know, no formal chase,
And your
study of that.
and your father, definitely brought some of that Afro-Caribbean music into your life. He was a jazz arranger. A lot of
Oh
folks
yeah,
sort of knew him, coming out of that Harlem Renaissance tradition. Your mother was, in gospel choirs. Do you remember the
yeah,
first piece of
and a
first
school
piece of
teacher.
music
So yeah,
that you
I mean, but
heard that
see,
really moved you?
I mean, what the thing is that this was before the record industry,
Right.
music industry got to be the control the direction of what was happening with the music.
Right.
Basically, you had the wild music over here developing all by itself and evolving and doing all those kinds of things. And then you had this group of industrialists or musical businessmen trying to find the thing that looked like it would be the most have the most commercial potential for the largest audience. Okay.
Right.
And then they would take those things out of this wild, bunch of music over here and bring it over here and find an artist that they thought was, significant to be able to work with this. And then the control over the financial, the fiduciary side
Right.
of the business was in their hands. Over here, that wasn't the situation. Plus, and with that kind of idea, one thing that they don't understand, which is one of the things that you have to know about, excuse me, with farming, is that you have to put back into the soil what you take out. And
Right.
oftentimes, the Western idea is to drive the soil until it's no longer, useful, and then go somewhere else and do something more. They don't understand the cycle of
Mm.
moving things back into the soil. So oftentimes, an artist, music, you might have 2 or 3 songs that you have from that artist. But if you went back in and you saw their whatever those cards were that they used to have in the drawers, I guess I could call it a Rolodex. You would
Right.
find out that there's like maybe 15 other songs, but because the businessman didn't have the idea of what it didn't have any commercial value to them. They basically threw the baby out with the bathwater, or left those songs in the studio, and they should have rightly gone back to the culture that they came from. This is
Right.
it's like the way it's happening with museums now, where they're being asked to return artifacts that they took from people's lives. And this
Right.
is the way music is too, So, and that was another thing, is that like say for instance, Statesboro Blues. There have
Right.
been no way for nobody to know about Statesboro Blues. It would have gone on by. That song, if you heard the original one, has nothing to do except the lyrics with the way that it began to be done. And Jesse Davis's idea to create a slide guitar on it, his style of slide guitar in standard tuning rather than open tuning, which is something that he got clearly from Muddy Waters.
Right.
But he made it his own. And then, of course, Dwayne got in there and made it his own. And so, again, just like anything else, most people think that Statesboro Blues, the rock, crowd, thinks that Statesboro Blues is the Allman Brothers song, which is fine by me, because it is that eventually they're going to wake up and realize that not only did it wasn't the Allman Brothers, but it was Jesse Davis, Taj Mahal, and the original artist, who was Blind Willie McTell on the 12-string guitar, who played that.
It's like a game of telephone across, racial barriers, across generations of people. And I think that people who have, grown up with your music, heard their parents play your music, and now have the new generation discovering your music, can kind of see a unique cross section of basically the entire tapestry of human sound making, right? You bring in reggae music, you bring in Hawaiian music, which was probably ahead of its time, especially in the 60s and 70s. When did you first discover, sort of bringing in these more maybe tropical rhythms, or was that from your father, or did you always sort of want to bring that into the blues?
The culture I grew up in was basically a Creole culture. I mean, in that we had part of our family that was from the Caribbean. We had part of our family was the South. We lived in the Northeast, where tremendous amount of people with a tremendous amount of people of all ethnic groups that lived together in the town that we're in, which was at that time, going off with three different ships for factories and teaching. People had a lot of stuff going on. That's a rabbit hole we could talk all day on. But anyway, the thing of it is that culturally around me were all these things happening. And we also had an American International College in town. So by the time I was 10 years old, I had been spending time with Africans who came to that school, the American International College, and Caribbean people from all the Caribbean islands, and from Latin American people. And so I thought of my culture as being very full, but I began to recognize that a lot of people didn't really know much about it. And oftentimes they heard, styles of music through the popular mode. You might have been lucky enough to hear Xavier Cugat or Javier Cugat, how you want to say, through play cha cha cha, and it would be over here. But then you might have heard Everybody Like Wants to Cha 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 by Sam Cooke. I remember all these different dances we did: merengue, cha cha, mambo, all those kind of
passing
things.
fads.
So it was always like that. But then, as the industry got more and more controlled, less and less of that kind of music was to be found. Because a lot of times the people trying to sell the music didn't really know what was going on. But once they saw something that was popular, then they tried to, hush up the competition as the best they could. And so consequently, the people, they only get a narrow slice of what the music is. And I just was like, this guy out here saying, hey, I don't know if you ever get out of here, but here's what else is out here, is that it's just more than, it's more than just bad R&B or bad rap or bad hip hop, I mean, or hip hop that's moving in a direction, or rap that's moving in a direction that isn't positive, when that's when it started out being about a positive thing, but, the industry got a hold to it. And, what they always will do is, protect their investment. So as much as they can control the artist and control the lane that everything's in, that's what they do. And I grew up during the years when, in the 40s, there was a record industry. It was all 78, you
Right.
drop them, you break them, you pay for them, one
They're
way
heavy.
or another, but again, my idea was always that, like jazz musicians, see, you were asking about mixing all this stuff. My first hearing of Hawaiian music came from my father's old radio record player that had presets on it, like Tokyo, like Sydney, London, and then Honolulu, and happened to punch it in one day and just be totally overwhelmed and overcome down to the molecular structure of this music. That was incredible. And went in search for that particular sound. And it took me years to finally find exactly what it was and exactly who was playing it. And then now I work with musicians who have done the same with their culture, has followed through and kept some of these great things happening in modern times.
Well, I think what's great about this new record, Swingin' Live at the Church in Tulsa, is it captures you, I think, in your element, really having a conversation musically with the audience, bringing them into the music from the very beginning, right? You're asking them to sort of participate almost like it's a church service, right? Like they're going back and forth with you. And I can see you referencing certain things, that opening track, Betty and Dupree. I can hear like a little bit of Hendrix's like version of Red House in there. I can hear like sort of you're weaving in and out of the decades of music in one song, and it's like you're really right in that moment. I know you've said you like playing sort of outside where people can move around, what was it like recording that record?
Move around too. Inside.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a way, there's a body posture that you can have if you're relegated to chairs. There's a way that you can get the recycling, the cycling going on between, the music on the stage and people in the audience. What I try to say is that we're all here because we know why we're here.
Right.
It's just a family meeting, and we're here because we know this, but oftentimes, the contemporary audience doesn't really know how to make that happen, and that they're more visual oriented. So they came not only to hear the music, but to see the music. So, and they don't put seeing and hearing together. That's one thing. So, it takes a little time to help sort of bring them out, introduce them to, a part of their own being and spirit that they probably never knew they had going, and get in a room full of people who are vibing like that, and the spirit lifts off in the room. Then we're instead of the music on the stage and people in the audience, it's just we're one, communicating with each other.
Do you think the music has kept you young in a way? I mean, most people are not touring full time into their 80s, right? I mean, you have a lot of energy that probably even us young musicians don't have. I saw you at a festival that my band, Dust Bowl Revival, played with you at Rhythm and Roots in Rhode Island, I believe, last year.
Wow.
And you when you get on the stage, people see a guy, who's been playing since the early 60s. You never know what you're going to get, and the fire that's still in you is so palpable. Where do you draw that energy from when you get up on stage?
Well, it's there all the time, man. And I mean, it's just what I've decided that I took a shot for about 10 years. I'd say from about 1961 to about 62 to, no, I'd say from probably like 67 to 77, I really put my energy into to basically trying to create something that was you know going to quote make it unquote.
Yeah.
I mean, because I was a little bit, well, I felt some way about it, that here, we're a bunch of guys from 3,000 miles away or 6,000 miles away from when I was in California, being the British invasion. Here
Right.
I was with Ry Cooder, Jesse Lee Kincaid, Gary Marker, either Kevin Kelly or Ed Cassidy, who became
Right.
the drummer for Spirit. Here we were, an American group, synthesizing the American sound and
Right.
putting it out there. And we were getting no love from the industry.
Right.
I mean, they just completely turned away from us. And it was like, wait a minute, you're supposed to take care of home first, And so, I mean, that whole aggregation ended up, the band broke up over not over anything that was happening with the music, but mostly happening with the music business,
Right.
but we all remained friends. And that's why Ry Cooder is he's a plays rhythm guitar on the first album. A lot of people thought it was Ry that was playing slide, because by the time they started really figuring out what was going on with my music, he had gone off and started his career, as a studio musician, playing
Right.
slide on a lot of stuff. But, I mean, the reason we did all this was, to make people aware, of the fact that, hey, man, you got a homegrown band here.
Yeah.
And then I kept going on saying, well, if they don't understand it, I'm not going to stop because they don't get it. Because it's really important for me to be doing this. If I was farming, I would still be looking for the different kinds of things I was looking for in music, because I mean, it's just important for me to be able to pick up an instrument and play some music. I don't have to plug into the wall.
Right.
The acoustic space around me is a sacred, space to, create in. And, I mean, it's just, I like to hear the music played, and that, you get an audience, and everybody doesn't know what I'm doing, or if some do and some don't. You can't guarantee on that. What I know I got to do is that, when I come to play the music, this is the time that I get to play. This is the thing that I'm doing. That's it. You get that, and then it's the next day. It's when you play again. I mean, it's like all you get is the day that you're in, man. It's like there are no laurels to sit back on and say, well, I can just get up here and do a little something. I don't like that. That doesn't work for me. I like to, whatever it is, acoustically, solo, full-size band, orchestra, anything. It's about the drive in the music. There's a reason to be playing it,
Well, I think that you have written songs that maybe don't get appreciated as having sort of the pop hook appeal that they should. You know, you have songs that you brought back like Mailbox Blues, right, on this new record. I'm moving to the country. I'm going to paint my mailbox blue, right? Every time I'm driving out into, you know, the farm areas, you know, out of the big city, I always think of that song, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's such a great line. It's like it encapsulates this entire escape mode that a lot of us people who lived in cities our life. You know what? I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to paint my mailbox blue. I don't even know what that means, and yet it works.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I had already done that by the time I actually wrote the song. I mean, and I was about by the time I was 14, I was out picking tobacco, picked tobacco for a couple of years. But that the biggest thing of going out into the country was basically my mom, because she was from South Carolina and was a farm girl, and but college girl, educated in early childhood development, and became to a school teacher for like 40 years, amongst the other things that she did.
Right.
You know, 5 kids, 6 kids, and you know, family, and deal with tragedy and all that kind of stuff. But she was, you know, a kind of from scratch cook. You know, so I mean, we literally went and got live chickens, and she'd dispatch them and pull the feathers and do all the things that I took, and you know, clean them up and get them ready, and you know, burn the pin feathers off on the gas on the stove, and
Right.
you know, grow vegetables, buy vegetables. In those years, the vegetable man came around. You know, and women would come out from their houses with their aprons on and or a big basket and get, you know, lima beans and green beans and cabbage, carrots, sweet potatoes, you know, iced potatoes, whatever, you know, eggs, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. It was really the living thing. And was that, and what I'm gonna say was that on the weekend, my father would take my brothers, my sister, and myself out to take my mother out to the country, where there would be these little, you know, farm, little, you know, for the stands, vegetable stands like that. And, you know, she'd stop and buy a bushel of corn, or, you know, quantities of different things, and bring it home and can this stuff and cook things, you know, that real fresh like that. I mean, she was a scratch cook, you know, she cooked everything from scratch. So, you know, you don't realize what I did. I just noticed that when we went out and drove out into the country, the pressure of being in the city was totally relieved, and I just loved it. And then we had camp out there, and then eventually by the time I was 16, I was going out pretty much out in the country, being around the dairy farms and doing all that kind of stuff like that. And it was later that, you know, I actually left Santa Monica and moved up to Topanga Canyon. And that's when I wrote that song. I mean, it probably was like I was going to move up to the canyons and paint my mailbox blue, but I couldn't leave the country that I left out to go and have such a wonderful time. And, you know, land around you, a river that ran for almost a mile alongside the land that was there, you know, and just that kind of life. I've always, you know, like that, small farms, and, you know, see people that really worked hard for their living, you know, and I appreciated it, and just decided that, you know, the black cowboys, you know, the bluesmen, you know, all these underrepresented people that in my life I was going to represent them, you know.
It's interesting that you moved out to Santa Monica, you know, in 1964, it said, to play with Ry Cooder. I'm taping this from my house in Santa Monica right now. I wonder where you lived around here. I wonder if you remember.
I lived on, it
was probably pretty different back then.
Yeah. We lived on 21st and Pico, just about a block from Centinel. You know,
that's literally where we live. That's literally, I'm on 28th and Pico.
Yeah, you're up the other way. You're on the other side of Centinel. Yeah, we were there, and then we were on 4th Street for a
That's
while.
wild.
Yeah, 4th and Pico. Well, near Pico. Well, yeah. In fact, where it is, I don't know what's in there now, called linoleum store or something. But 2 doors away from me was a place that used to be a club, and I mean, the blues guys used to come and play there.
Oh,
I
really?
mean, Howlin', I heard Howlin' Wolf there, and
In Santa Monica.
JD Otto. It's right in the corner of Pico and 21st.
Huh.
Right
Well, I know
there.
McCabe's Guitar Shop has been there a
Oh
long
yeah,
time.
it's down. Yeah, that's down Pico.
Now, when you've been playing, since obviously the early 60s, especially when you first started touring on those opening records, when you had to go into the South, when you had to go into places that maybe you weren't feeling as welcome, how did that
We
feel?
never had much. We never had no hassle like that. Well, by the time we were coming to play, we played in lots of different places. We just didn't have hassles. I don't know what it was, whether it was the way we carried ourselves or the places that we played. By the time we got to doing whatever we did, we didn't have. I mean, the Chitlin circuit was a different thing. Those guys were the ones that were ahead of us, and
Right.
they, by the time we came to there, the civil rights had been era had gone through, and people were making room for what was next. So
Right.
we didn't have that. Oftentimes it was other places other than the South that we might have run into something. Didn't play enough harmonica for a certain group of motorcycle guys, and they could get a little surly.
Okay.
But no, we really didn't have any of that kind of, and I think that we're all young and strong, and we made a real good, we had a good presence, and we had some good guys working with us. So people didn't cross us up. We never got crossed up like that.
It's cool seeing songs again, like filtered through the sands of time, and then you play Dive and Duck Blues throughout your career, obviously on that 68 self-titled record, and then you team up with Keb Mo on that Taj Mo record in 2017. I was able to talk to Keb last year on the show here, and he graciously played some guitar on one of our band's tracks. Such a beautiful soul, has such a pure joy in his music. What was it like working with him and sort of keeping those songs sort of in people's consciousness?
Well, I don't know about keeping them in people's consciousness. It's just what works with us. The first time we ever played it together was on the Crossroads Festival, what Eric Clapton has,
right?
And that was down in it was in New York at Madison Square Garden, and the two of us came and played acoustically, and there was like 25,000-30,000 people in there.
Yeah.
Two guys get up on stage after everybody's been playing with amplifiers, and what happens is that kind of intimacy and that kind of direct playing makes every individual in the audience feel like you're playing right inside of him.
Yeah.
And so people came down there and they're listening to the lyrics. They don't have to try to strain to hear the lyrics over amplification. So yeah, we had that was the first time we did it, and that's more like the original way it was done.
Yeah.
By John Estes, but the one that we did on that first record, I thought the arrangement was really great because I played it for Jesse, and then he's the one that came up with that arrangement, and that was one of the great things about him. He was an incredible arranger. I don't think people really know that about him, but he really knew how to arrange stuff. There's a lot of really good stuff that just things he always brought to the music. Add a little piano, you'd add a piano here, or suggest to put,
Right.
a banjo here in this place, or that, to arrange the horns, on You Don't Miss Your Water, arrange the horns on Lot of Love, just or add rhythm lines on his guitar, or suggest, this, that, or the other. But we all work together. Yeah.
When did you first see, some of the artists like the Rolling Stones, people who are, at the top of the music industry food chain, start to reference you and start to sort of want to collaborate with you in your music? When did that start?
Well, I used to work at this club. If you know where the Improv is on Melrose Avenue.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that used to be a great, 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 great blues and roots club called the Ash Grove. And
Yeah.
when I first came out to California, and basically one of the first jobs that I had was being the doorman, the bouncer, the seater and greeter, and sometimes the opening act at
Okay.
that place. And oftentimes the Stones, the Animals, and other bands would come in because they actually got to see these players like Lightning Hopkins. I mean, Lightning Hopkins was playing one night, and I'm at the door, and I look up, and here comes Johnny Cash. Comes in by himself, no entourage, came in, ordered a drink, sat there, and just enjoyed every note that Lightning Hopkins played.
Wow.
And we had a lot of people that came into that club from the movie industry and other industries, and the music industry. But the Stones and those kind of bands like that, Moody Blues, anybody that was playing any kind of blues, they all made it into the different clubs when there were people playing around. So I knew that they knew, and I also knew that if something must be going on, because I picked up on them in the 50s when the Skipple bands would come on, and I would hear them on the radio late at night, I'm going like, and my question was like, wait a second, they're 3,000 miles away from here.
Yeah.
What, why and how, over the years, I've got my theories about what and this information of how they did what they did and why they did what they did. But they came around. And so ultimately, like you said, they were at the top of the food chain, basically playing the music that came from here in the States. And they showed up one night at the Whiskey a Go-Go when we had a gig there with Jesse Davis. And I'm playing my harmonica with the band and looking, open my eyes to look down at the forest, Jagger and Richards and Brian Jones, Bill Wyman, and the Animals are over here with, Eric Burton, Hilton Valentine, I think his name was, and then Kaz Chandler, they're dancing. And in the back of the room's Eric Clapton and Graham Bond and this Japanese group called the Tigers. And, I just said, hey, by then I'd heard from Ry Cooder, from John Hammond, from Bob the Bear Hype from Canned Heat, and Al Wilson from Canned Heat, and Jesse Fuller about what was happening over there in England. And that, you could hear the Howlin' Wolf on the television in the morning. It's like you couldn't hear Howlin' Wolf on television. You're lucky to hear Howlin' Wolf on television now. I mean, relegated to silence. Anyway, so I was really impressed by that, and I just said, and they were doing things, recording when those guys came over. So I came over to the table and introduced myself, and those guys said, hey, wonderful, great show, blah, 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 brilliant. And I just said to him, I said to Mick, I said, hey, I don't know what it is you guys got in the water over there, but you just keep that up. But let me say, if there's anything that you could ever think of having us, do, or you would have any idea that you would like for us to be involved in any of your
Right.
projects. Just speak up, we're there. And 4 months later, 3-4 months later, they sent us 8 first class round trip tickets from Los Angeles to London on BOAC. And the 4 guys in the band, the 2 road managers, and the management, went over, and we had one of the greatest times that anybody's ever hosted us, besides Bonnie Raitt and Princess Caroline from Monaco. I mean, this is pretty serious. And so, all the time I was there, I've never stuck my hand in my pocket for anything more than the chewing gum, cigarettes that I was smoking at the time, postcards, or any gifts that I was going to bring back home. They took care of us in the most royal and comfortable, way. They looked after us and thought a lot of us. And that's why what you see in the rock and roll circus is what happened there, And
Well, I think for
nobody else
them,
did that. We were the only American group that was in that thing. There was one other American person, that was Dinah Luna, and she was a model. She was a 6'2" tall model who was in that. But everybody else was, the English bands, but they had us there, And so Mick was good on his word, man.
That's cool. Is there people like, I know you've collaborated with Etta James. Are there people where when you were in the room with them where you felt almost like, that genius or that sense of otherworldly energy coming off them?
Oh yeah. There's a whole lot of people that they don't have to be, noted by the whole group of there's so many people out here, man. I can't tell you. I mean, that I just listen to what works for me, man. And some people happen to make it into the public life, and some don't. I mean, they get the professional, popular story, but there's a whole lot more people that aren't the popular story who got just as much going, sometimes even more.
Some of my favorite songs of yours are kind of romantic, love songs, Lovin' in My Baby's Eyes, for example, which you bring back for this live record in Tulsa. You've been in some long relationships, right? I mean, I think you've been married since what, 1976 or so?
Mm-hmm.
As a person who's only been married for 5 years, what is the advice you would give to me about creating sort of this life of where you can keep the romance alive?
keep the romance alive. I mean, be inventive. I mean, just don't take nobody for granted. Take it one day at a time. Sit down and figure out what look at what you got going. Because I mean, everything changes and moves, but it's like there's a lot of things. You just have to pay attention. And also investigate other cultures and how they do things. And just see what people do. And what you begin to realize that oftentimes is just you're not aware of these just different things to bring to the table. And the other thing is, if you oftentimes men work hard and they'll play hard, but they don't put that same they don't take the time to have their space to be with their mate. It's real important. Create time for it. Send the kids to grandma's.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And let them because they need that grandma or grandpa time, or Uncle Jake, or Uncle Jake and Aunt Rosie, send them to camp in the summer, so they're developing. They're not just up under you.
Was there a person or a moment that brought that song "Lovin' in My Baby's Eyes" into the world?
Oh yeah, I mean, it really came from my daughter Diva when she was about 2 or 3 years old. She was like she was on the porch, like laying on her back, and I looked down and said, "Hey, how you doing?" And the energy went back and forth between our eyes, and she didn't say much, but I remember that day and that moment. But the song is morphed into to add more adult fare in it. But
Right.
that was the impetus for that song, and then I just collected different kinds of experiences that I put into the tune. I mean, the tempo that we do it on the record is one, but one of the other tempos is when I played it with Leftover Salmon on their Nashville sessions. You should hear that. You'd really like that. It's bluegrass and country.
I mean, you can hear the reggae energy, the beat starting to come out in the 1976 version of Satisfied and Tickled too, that kind of, and one of my all-time favorite songs of yours. But is reggae music for you sort of almost an extension of the blues? Is it like part of the same sort of Afro-Caribbean tradition that's sort of being wound into your songcraft?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, they're relatives. So, I mean, samba is a relative. Candomblé, son, salsa, merengue, bachata. They're all relatives. Because I mean, the beats and the music has been extrapolated from the connection between Africa and the Caribbean. But with reggae, what I liked about the Jamaicans is that the Jamaicans here in this country, when a song has reached its cycle financially, it usually gets pulled out of rotation. Okay. Right. To be replaced with something else. Okay. And also that helps evolve the music. The Jamaicans always take out the real good stuff. They save the good parts.
Okay.
And create something around that. And that's what I've always liked about them, is that stuff that I particularly like, it was going like, why don't they continue to play that? I mean, I'm playing, like I said, I'm playing with people who got songs that go back to the 11th century. And you can't choose. So I got Tavis Smiley. I was on his show one time. He was saying, what is this? What do you say about people who say that, the blues is dead? I said, look here, you cannot chew all the flavor out of the blues. It'll never happen. It's just that the people who are in control and the gatekeepers say, well, that's the old stuff, and we don't listen to that anymore. That's crazy. That's crazy. If it was alive and working for people in 60, 100 years ago, then it's alive and working today. You can hear that it comes from that, but see, there's no if they keep gatekeeping it and keeping it down, then the sound that everybody hears that's happening, that they're trying to sell, is the sound that they think it is. Like, I'm sorry, the the rap and hip hop today is not just, you know, it's not the only thing that's, you know, Black American culture. You know,
Mm.
I mean, it went from the dominant Americans deciding that it wasn't music to, you know, you hearing it come back when it's on Fox News. So now what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is the stuff you didn't like, you know? Yeah.
Well, the counterculture becomes the mainstream,
Yeah.
and then it like kind of goes in this weird cycle where the music that was the music of rebellion becomes the music you put to sell trucks and
Yeah.
Coca-Cola, 10 years later.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Well, it's funny because you could even hear Howlin' Wolf, like Smokestack Lightning, selling Viagra.
Yeah. Exactly. And John Lee Hooker, both of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trucks and yeah, right. You know.
Has anyone approached you to put your music into a bizarre place commercially?
No. Maybe a long time ago we did a commercial for something called A Smile Jeans, and that was it. Man, that was back. So what was that? What was that back? Maybe in the 70s. But that's it. You know. Oh no, I think somebody used Ain't Nobody's Business But My Own. What was it? Masson, one of the wineries is champagne, don't drive me crazy. Don't make me lazy. Ain't nobody's business but my own. You know, they use that, you know, as a a little come on there, but no, not really. There's not a whole bunch of they don't seem to, I mean, I guess they're looking for something else. It's too organic or whatever, I don't know. But I'm not hanging around waiting for them.
I know one of your favorite records you did in 1999 with the Kora master from Mali, Toumani Diabate, the record called Kulanjan.
Kulanjan, yeah.
Yeah. Have you actually toured in Africa at all? Have you gone to Mali and played any of
No,
your
I haven't been to Mali, but in '79 we toured of 13 different countries.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But and then we went again in the early 2000s to Zanzibar. We made another record there, really nice, called Mukutano. And yeah, I'm getting I go back, touch base over there all the time.
Do you feel like you're maybe a modern version of that griot tradition?
Griot, yeah, American griot, sure.
Because storytellers from all walks of life are so needed, throughout time and history, as the people who can actually maybe pull back the curtain about what's really going on in our culture. Maybe they're not appreciated in their own time, but when you have the privilege of being around in the culture for 70 years making music, you've seen the evolution of American culture, music, and you have so much more to say than most people, especially my age. And I'm grateful that you're here making music for people to hear now, and preserving a lot of the music that I love for a new generation. I think that's super important.
Well, I've been lucky because sometimes it's like three, three or even four generations. The grandparents
Right.
are like in their 80s and they had their kids young, and then so now it's the great grandbabies. But the thing is that what I wanted to do was hook my music up to that which was an older tradition, which had been unbroken by commercial intervention, business intervention. This is like it's been passed for like with Tumani's 71st generation. It's like what can you see here? That's 71 generations. If you have to tell somebody about, I mean, with the way they're set up, they're not using their facility maintain and keep connected to the great consciousness.
Last thing I'll ask you is if you could have studio time with one band or one artist, dead or alive, you could get them in the room with you and make a new album, who would it be? Anyone throughout history?
Good question. I don't know. I probably like to play with the either the international rhythm band that I had back in the 70s, or the intergalactic Soul Messengers band from there, and the Hula Blues band.
And you lived in Kauai.
It's really crazy. It's really crazy because when I start saying that, then I think of the great music that I made with Jesse Davis, Tuba Man. I mean, all of those things are really monumental movements that it always shocked me how people couldn't hear it.
Well, there's still time. They can hear it now.
Oh yeah, no. I let that stuff go years ago. I just stopped worrying about whether they hear it or not. Get the work done. That's the most important thing. At this point, I am not sitting here talking about woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's just like, you want to see, you want. I mean, it's like, yeah, there's room to be. It's like, if you see somebody like Salvador Dali, and you go like, this guy was nuts. I mean, him, Picasso, the Le Chevalier de Saint Georges, Joseph Bologna, him, Ravel. I mean, Ravel's Bolero.
Right.
L'après-midi du Swan, phone, rather. L'après-midi du phone. I mean, there's so many different things, I mean, that's just some of them, Miles Davis, anywhere Miles, but, I mean, Kind of Blue. I find myself, I like it on vinyl. I don't like it on any other, sounds the warmest on vinyl. I'm always listening to vinyl. I never gave my vinyl up. I didn't care. If I was the last man standing, I was still going to play vinyl. But everything else since 2008 on vinyl. Going forward, everything's going to be on vinyl.
That's what it was, in that little closet next to my bed in Chicago, my dad's record collection. That's where he kept it. And I started wandering in there. And one of the first couple records I saw was King of the Delta Blues, Robert Johnson.
Great record.
Steely Dan's like greatest hits or something. And then that Taj Mahal self-titled record, in front of that house, and that leaving trunk harmonica, man, it just bursts out of the speakers, like almost sounds like it's going to break the speakers,
Yeah, it'll definitely open up, the front of your brain.
Well, I appreciate you doing your thing, and I hope to see you out on the road soon. Better keep touring till you're 100.
That's what I'm trying to do.
All right, man. We'll keep up the good work.
You're welcome.
All right.
I will.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Thank you.
You got it.